Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you this evening. It looks like summer is here, finally. I understand we're perhaps going to get a bit of a heat wave next month, but anyway, let's just enjoy what we've got at the moment. So I'm just waiting for my weekly sound engineer to give me the thumbs up that we're good to go. I think there's somebody viewing already, maybe somebody that doesn't respond normally. But anyway, good to see you this evening, and those of you that are on catch up, either the following day or later on the day or in the week or in the months to come. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time. It's a short one today because it's holiday time, so it'll be about 15 minutes, and then I'll be firing away, leaving you guys to get on with your holiday and so forth. So we're looking at, thank you very much indeed. I'm good to go and I'm off. Yeah, might be some people on holiday. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe and well and in good company. So we'll be continuing. Good evening, Sonia, and good evening, individuals who remain nameless this evening. Thank you very much for taking the time on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, taking the time to watch the broadcast this evening. So we'll be looking at spiritual betrayal. We looked at it last week, and we saw how delicate it is. But I wanted to do part two today, more of a recovery, but I just wanted to say a bit more about it to this evening. So for those of you who may be watching for the first time, you might be scrolling through whatever it might be, whatever platform you're on. My name is Delroy Hall, trained psychotherapist with over 30 years experience, teacher and lecturer. And I've been doing these broadcasts since yes, indeed. Yes, Helen. Yes. Sadly, holidays are finished. And I'm on holiday till the rest of the month. But I just wanted to keep this one going, just kind of short content. And then September will kick off again with a new series of stuff. So we'll be looking at spiritual betrayal. We've been looked at betrayal for the last 6 weeks now. Last week we looked at spiritual betrayal part 1, and I didn't want to rush it. I'll just do a brief introduction before I was kind of distracted a moment. However, the name is Delroy Hall. I've been doing this since April 2020, during the first lockdown, and 3 years and a bit still doing this, and certainly getting a lot of enjoyment. And certainly lately getting a lot of input from the newsletters I've started to do, and just the subject matter, and people contacting me personally. So betrayal, of course, is this when your trust has been violated. And then we looked at spiritual betrayal when your trust has been violated from a religious or institution or spiritual institution or organization or people. But I wanted to say something for those of you who didn't get a chance to read the newsletter. One of the reasons why spiritual betrayal cuts so deep is that clergy people, whether it be Christianity or Islam or Judaism or whatever it might be, priests and clergy people have been with us during the high times of life and the very low times of life. They've been with us in those critical moments of life. And for some, we have shared some deep thoughts and some of our deepest secrets with these individuals. So in one sense, we've been laid bare. One of the interesting things in the world of counseling, that not all the time, but sometimes you have to make an arrangement with somebody. If you see me in the street, what you want me to do? And quite often, because people have shared so much deep things with you, they don't necessarily want to see you in the same pub or to walk up to them, pat them on the back and say, how you doing? There's a discreet acknowledgement, and then you move on. Because they've shared some really important stuff with you, been very vulnerable and so forth. And similarly, when people have shared some very deep thoughts and have been some high moments and vulnerable moments with spiritual religious people, the idea of betrayal cuts really, really deep. So the deeper the trust, the deeper the hurt. That's really important to remember that. So when there's spiritual betrayal, there's a loss of identity. I don't know who I am. And there's this loss of self. I want to say a little bit more about this loss of self. And I want to use the work of, what's her name now? Holly Kenley. When one has been spiritually betrayed, she said there's 3 states of being. And it might be good if you've got a pen and paper, or pencil and paper, to take some notes. It might be good there just to take down some notes. Now, I had a really interesting exchange with somebody during the week who said that he has no religious convictions whatsoever, But he said it was very good for him to understand what people go through being spiritually betrayed. And my response to him was absolutely, it was the same, to say that if you're in the people business, counseling, coaching, psychology, personal development, it's really important to know the impact that spiritual betrayal has on people. There's somebody who shared some stuff with me during the week. I asked her if I could share some stories. She's not got back to me, but there is something that she said I want to share. I'm not talking about the story, but I want to share something in a few moments. So Holly Kennedy says this: when spiritual betrayal takes place, there's 3 states of being. There's a kind of huge disruption in the person's life. The first thing, she calls it the state of confusion. The state of confusion is why did this happen? And people sometimes can be consumed with trying to find out why it happened. And there's one thing, if you're listening to them, one thing you need to avoid, and I'll say that in a moment. So state of confusion, why has this happened? If God is a God of love, why has this happened to me? Number 2 is a state of worthlessness. And for somebody who's been a part of a religious organization, religious community, and they've been betrayed, the thought is, I thought I was somebody significant. I thought I belonged. I thought I was a part of this community. Why has this happened? There's this whole sense of this kind of sense of being lost. But also, if God really cared, why would he allow this to happen? So you've got the state of confusion, the state of worthlessness, and then the final thing, the state of powerlessness. I must do something because no one else is. Quite often what happens when people have been spiritually betrayed in a community, when they go to report it, they're not believed, and so forth and so forth. So this whole thing around recovery, grief is the loss of somebody we love, and grief and betrayal is a loss of self. And part of what we're trying to do in the recovery is to recover our losses. I want to say a bit more about that as we continue. So one of the things about spiritual betrayal, of course, is that when we are telling our story, and if we tell our story to the religious organization, which is never a good thing, we are not seen, heard, or believed, and that compounds the betrayal. And sometimes we're not even acknowledged. And somebody I made references some time ago said that she thought she could shake it off. And it was really, really difficult. I won't need to go into the ins and outs and all the rest of it. But one of the things that was said, which really spoke to me, is this whole thing about wanting to fix things. In the world of counseling, we don't fix clients. And there's this urge in many religious organizations to fix things. And if you're watching this evening, you know people that belong to religious organizations, pastors and ministers, send this video to them. They need to know that they can't go around trying to fix things for people for many, many reasons, but I'm going to say one particular one. The whole thing about recovery, it's not a sprint. We need time to recover. Good evening, Jerry, and anyone who's just popped in just after 7 o'clock. I just want to say a warm welcome to you this evening. Recovery is not a sprint, and you can't recover from betrayal quickly. It takes as long as it takes. And sometimes what practitioners can try to do, they can try to speed the process up. Either helping the person or telling the person to spend more time in prayer, spend more time reading the scriptures, and they want to fix things for people. And this is the biggest danger in trying to fix things for people, because if you do what you're doing, you're creating dependency, and the person who needs to recover is not making their own way to where they need to get to. So part of the recovery is helping people to find a new landing ground. The previous ground they had before it's now been disrupted, it's now been severed, it's now been destroyed. So part of your process, hence why I say to individuals, if you've been spiritually betrayed, the person who betrayed you can't be the person who helps you to find a new path. It's impossible. So then you have to find someone, and I would say outside of the organization. And if the person is not a believer, but they're sympathetic to religious and spiritual values, you use them and their expertise and their skills to find a new ground, because the previous ground you've had before has now been disrupted because of the spiritual betrayal. And you can see already it takes time. The other thing that we won't get on to now, this whole thing around forgiveness and reconciliation, you can't force that. People need to be guided to a particular point. There's this whole thing around forgive and forget. I hear it quite often, and I just need to say something about forgive and forget. The idea around forgive and forget is simply this: that when, through a process of time and support and help, the process of time, when either you see the person or you think of the situation, there's no physiological or emotional response. If there still is, it means that perhaps you haven't worked things through. And you can't forget. The only time you can forget is if you have some form of head injury and that part of your brain has been shattered. But this whole thing about forgive and forget, you can never, if you've been betrayed and deeply hurt, you can never forget it. That's impossible. But hope you can work through the process, that may be that you can find a new landing ground. And when you see the individual again or so forth, your body doesn't respond in a negative way. So part of this recovery, and what I'm going to say next for people who might be listening either live or people might be listening because somebody's forwarded this to you, is this: if you're the one who's been betrayed, spiritually betrayed, don't be surprised that in the process of recovering, good evening, Norma, good to see you this evening, and Jenny, and Jerry as well, really good to see you all this evening. In the process of recovery, you may conclude, I can't go back to the place where they hurt me. I got to go somewhere else. I've got to find somewhere else. Also, don't be surprised if you're in good hands that you'll have a new and deeper understanding of your spiritual belief or your spiritual faith or your faith. The event that you've gone through, you've not run away from it. You've not swept under the carpet. You've not prayed it out. You've not been told. You may have been told just to trust God, trust whatever it might be, and it'll be all right. And you know it's not. So you're going to get some help. You might find that once you're processed, you can't go back to the place where you were hurt, the place and the people that hurt you. But you may have a deeper, new understanding, a more refreshing understanding of faith and spirituality. So what started off as something being deeply unpleasant can be something that leads you to a new, fresher, broader understanding. And I'm not saying for a minute that, well, you know, that's the reason why it's happened. It's about learning from what has happened so that you can bounce back, you can become more resilient, you can bounce back stronger, but having a new faith and a new understanding. So this is what I'll say in kind of conclusion. Remember, it's holiday time, so I'm kind of shortening it. Even my newsletters are shorter. The love, the energy, the effort and time you invested in religious institutions, people and organizations, I want you now to start investing in yourself. This whole thing around self-care is really, really important. And looking after yourself is absolutely important. Holly Kenny talks about writing yourself. Nobody else can do it for you, but in the process of being, and I would say a therapist, somebody who may be secularly trained, but they have sensitivities and sympathies for people who are religious or spiritual. They're not there to psychopathologize, but they are there to embrace what you have to offer and offer new perspectives. And they're certainly, the good therapists are not there to dissuade you from your faith or spirituality or religion. They're there to support what's going on, to help you work through the situation and find new grounding in which you can stand and be stronger and so forth. So Holly Kenny talks about writing yourself. She talks about reorientating your life. Your life has now been disrupted, and it's now having a sense of agency, a sense of control, with the help of somebody who can really guide you through, not telling you what to do, but allow you to explore things. And then how you can for this evening. I said my offerings today will be quite short because it's holiday period. I don't think there's much else to say other than in terms of we looked at spiritual betrayal, and the reason why spiritual betrayal is cut so deep, and in fact all forms of betrayal is very deep. The deeper the trust, the deeper the pain. But also one of the things with spiritual betrayal is simply that quite often clergy people, religious gurus or so forth, they've been with us in the high times of life, the low times of life, and at times we may have shared some very personal and very deep things with them. So hence when there's a violation, it cuts deep because all the things that you shared, in a sense, this person held in trust, and things haven't worked out well. So thank you, Lindsay, and yeah, I'll see you soon. So listen, if there's no other questions or nothing else for this evening, it'll be a short one next week for the rest of the month, about 15 minutes, and then we'll be cracking on with some things in September, and possibly with some new ways in which this session is going to be delivered. But anyway, if you found it helpful, please pass it on, certainly for people who are religious practitioners. And if there's any here today listening, I know there's some therapists and so forth, resist the urge to fix. Allow people to find their path, guide them, because in what you do, you increase their autonomy, sense of agency, but not resist the urge to fix. There you go. Go well, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your night, and let's pray for a bit more sunshine, eh? All right, take care, everybody. All the best. Bye-bye.